Wow, hi SaaS monsters, how are we? We good? I'm actually really excited because this idea that I'm going to present to you is actually making a big impact on organizations. And I'm excited about that because I think that drives a massive change in the industry. And I might be a little bit excited because I had a bit too much wine at lunch. I love the fact we have wine here, by the way. So I'm talking about this idea that you might have heard about, which is digital transformation. We've all heard it. It's been beaten to death. And what my company does is it helps companies figure out how to leverage their assets, how to unlock the value of their data, their customer information, their capabilities that you want to build in applications, so that they can actually transform themselves from these sort of legacy monoliths into more nimble, value chain-oriented organizations. And this concept has sort of emerged with some of our key customers around how you drive change through the organization. And the big idea here is simple, right? Which is, it's not actually about technology, it's about a culture shift. And most organizations that are dealing with technology can't keep up with the pace of change. They can't keep up with the number of SaaS applications, the number of open APIs that are available to them, the new platforms that are available. And they're trying to figure out how to go faster. And they're thinking that they should just run projects faster. And that doesn't work because every part of the business now needs technology, not just to function, but to thrive and to drive new innovation. So this idea of a centralized IT organization doesn't really make sense anymore. So the big idea here is to change that culture away from IT being an order taker to an IT organization that enables the business to deliver more on their own. So remember this? It looks really dated now, doesn't it? It looks like the phone kind of looks a bit clunky. That was just 8 years ago. 8 years ago, Apple reprogrammed us. They changed our cultural environment. They taught us that there's an app for that. They taught us that you can go and self-serve a whole bunch of capabilities to help impact or leverage in every part of our lives. And it's a pretty powerful and simple concept. But what they did is they created an app store, but that wasn't enough. What they did with this advertising campaign was they rewired us. They changed our culture. They made us believe, yeah, there is an app for everything, and they eventually told us to all look at our phones the whole time. Please don't stop looking at your phones. I know some of you are doing it. Right, and the point of this concept is really powerful in the enterprise, but it doesn't work the same way, right? So in the enterprise, it's more complicated. It's more nuanced. Enterprise data, enterprise capabilities are buried behind layers of complexity, which is why enterprises haven't got an app store for you. Think about your day at work. Like some of you probably, well, actually a lot of you probably startups. So if you work in a large organization and you want to build a new dashboard, or you're building a new application, or you're seeing that something is working slowly and you want to go and automate it, it's really difficult to go and find the people and resources and access to the data and technology to go and make any changes whatsoever. So instead, you just don't do anything, or you go rogue and you buy some SaaS application hoping that will fix the problem, but you realize that SaaS app needs the data as well, or you go to IT, right? And IT are the bottleneck. They're these guys, right? They're still figuring out how to run the network at scale. They're still trying to figure out how to stop malware. They're still figuring out how to avoid ransomware on the laptops, right? So IT is not really well equipped to understanding how to unlock and deliver projects in the way that they've done it the last 10 years into the way it needs to happen now in this new culture shift. And the culture shift is pretty simple. Like, what if there was a way to reuse data, reuse capabilities inside the enterprise in the same way that the App Store taught us you could do it on the phone? So what if the enterprises had this marketplace for its data and capabilities? And notice I don't use the term App Store, because I'm not talking about apps. In the enterprise, it's different, right? We don't need applications. What we need is access to the information that's already there, right? So it's things like customer data. It's things like order history. It's things like payment information. It's things like capabilities to retrieve balances for all your credit cards. Right, these things exist within banks, they exist within organizations, but they're not readily available. So the way we're seeing this work in the enterprise is with APIs. Right, they're not magic pixie dust, but APIs have done something pretty fundamental to the conversation between two applications. Right? In the same way that HTML on the web created a standardized way for us to share information between people, APIs is created a standardized way to exchange value, data, capabilities, other assets, programmatically between applications. And we've seen it work really well on the web, right? If you think about the App Store wasn't successful because it was just an App Store. It was partly successful because there was about 15,000 APIs behind those apps that allow developers to rapidly build new products, new applications very quickly. It enables innovation and enables agility. It allows an ecosystem of people, developers, to find, use, and build new applications around existing data sets, existing capabilities, like Google Maps, like Twilio for cloud communications, like Facebook for understanding your social network. These APIs really power the applications that we use every day. And the enterprise does not yet have that capability, but they need it. So I'm going to talk about this idea of an API marketplace. And I just want to, this is the one idea, this is all I'm going to talk about today, but I want to help you understand how it actually works. Because I suspect many of you in the audience know what APIs are, and you probably think you understand how they work in the enterprise, but the enterprise is a bit different. You don't get things packaged up in clean, nicely driven APIs the way it should happen. And what Mulesoft is trying to do is enable these organizations to do that at scale. Right? So whether you're a bank, whether you're a small startup, whether you're in higher education, you should be able to package up your core assets pretty easily and make them available across different types of consumers. So an example of this would be IT might get asked to build like a customer web application, pretty common. And in the App Store, or in this sort of API marketplace, they can find Salesforce. They know they have Salesforce there, but there's also a bunch of other customer information buried in databases, and they decide to create a customer API that allows them to bring together those two data sources into one application. The old way of doing this, where they go and connect the application directly to the data sources, the problem with that, you don't get any leverage. If you create it as an API, you can then put it in the API marketplace and allow other people to discover it. So the next application that gets built might be by a different part of the organization. Let's say it's app developers in the field organization, right? So they're creating a mobile app, and they're working with IT. So IT still has to unlock the data. They still got to give them access to information like order information, but they package it up as an API right from the outset. It's not a big culture shift. If you work in enterprises, you'll know that microservices has become very popular. Microservices and APIs are cousins. Basically, an API is a managed single or multiple microservices. So it's not a million miles away from what enterprises are trying to do today. But what we see here is now we've actually enabled that application to be delivered a bit more quickly, and we've created new assets in the marketplace. And what we found with customers when we do this is you only need to open up 10, 20, maybe 30 assets, and suddenly you start to see reuse across projects. Right? And sometimes we've got to change the asset a bit. Sometimes we have to create a new version of it. But the point is, the IT organization is now going down a path where they say every time we deliver a project, we're going to deliver some reusable capability. And that starts to build this capability inside the organization that other people can serve from. So take this idea a bit further, and let's say we've got data analysts that want to create customer reporting. Now, those same APIs don't have to be just used by developers or IT people. They can actually be packaged up into other forms. So we've actually done this with customers where we've taken certain data APIs and we've packaged them up as data sources for common BI engines like Tableau. And what that allows you to do is then connect a whole new audience of people in that organization who use Tableau to find just those assets in the API marketplace that are relevant to the application they're working with. But all we've done is we've taken the things we've already got and we've repackaged them in a different way so they can be used by a different part of the organization. And that's really important. That's the bit that people tend to miss. It's not just about the APIs, it's about packaging the APIs into different form factors so more people can get successful with the same assets. Take this one step further, and you can easily imagine, as we're seeing quite a lot in customers, that customer support teams or service teams are looking to implement things like chatbot type of capabilities to engage consumers or customers in a different way, they can wrap up those existing APIs, bring in some new information such as history data, and they can create a new set of APIs around customer support and attach that to things like chatbots or AI engines or voice systems or kiosks, right? And this mode is really important because it allows enterprises to think about adopting the new technology trends, such as AI, such as chatbots, such as new interfaces, voice interfaces, without having to go rebuild everything from scratch. And this is what makes this pretty powerful for our customers and what a lot of our new customers are building out today, is this idea that they're not just building individual projects, web apps, mobile apps, chat interfaces, but they're building an infrastructure to allow them to get really good at change. And I think for most enterprises, that's the most critical thing right now. If you're not good at change, you're going to fall behind very, very quickly. And this model actually starts to unlock the value of the organization, make it available across the organization, and allow more people to interact and build new value on top of existing assets. And I think of this concept as a bridge between IT and the business. Right? Today, in most organizations, they are two separate, distinct functions. And IT is seen as a laggard, the business are seen as unsympathetic. And what they do is they throw requests over the fence to each other all the time, and they get frustrated when they don't get what they need. This idea of an API marketplace in the enterprise creates that bridge between those two towers and allows the free flow of data and capabilities and other resources that just isn't there today. And what that does, that creates this agility. It creates this ability for many more people in the organization to try things out without having to go and ask for permission or without having to go and buy new applications. They can go to the App Store and find the data and capabilities available to them. And I think this is the bridge to enable a new culture inside these organizations to say, there's an API for that. Thank you.